Welcome back. Today I am going to be reading again from How Not to Be a Boy by Robert Webb. Very funny man, very interesting man. I've enjoyed reading it so far. We're at chapter 2. Last time I came on here, we read the foreword and then the first chapter. So I'm looking forward to learning more about his life and how he interprets it and how it relates to traditional masculinity, maybe kind of modern forms of gender, the juxtaposition between the two, and like also the spiritual components of what he's talking about. I'm hoping to touch on these kind of things and, whatever else it provokes, but I have found it thought-provoking. So before we get into that, though, I thought I'd share. I just ran into my neighbor at the grocery store, and we had a funny moment. He had his hands full of stuff, and he dropped something as we came upon each other. So we chatted for a moment, but he had asked me about my style and why I always look so good every time I go out, which was a nice compliment. But he had asked, he's like, you're always dressed so nice, and he's like, well, how do you do that? How do you maintain that? I was like, what? But I think it gave me it was a nice compliment because it validated kind of the changes I've made over the years and how I carry myself in the world and how people notice and they appreciate it, and it also gives them something to look up to, I suppose. But yeah, I just told him it was my standard. I was like, it's just my standard, I don't leave my front door unless I look a certain way, That's just how it is. And it's not even about looking the best. I have days I look better than others. This is a more casual day for me, because I'm wearing, it's not casual. It is and it isn't. I feel comfortable, That's the thing. There are times when I'm more, I would say uncomfortable in my clothing. It's more stiff, it's more kind of formal than others. So this to me is very casual, but to other people, it's kind of for perspective. I don't look casual. So there's a lot of, I don't know, provoked in me these concepts of, perception, different sorts of standards. Because, I don't look at people I do look at people and judge them sometimes depending on where they're at and what they're doing, on their appearance. And I think people lie to themselves if they pretend they don't notice these things, because to me, it's about impressions you leave with people. People remember, people remember the more striking individuals, people who distinguish themselves in some way. So yeah, your appearance does kind of matter. It does kind of set the tone for the kind of experience you're going to have in life. And if you take yourself more seriously and consider that as you're approaching doing what you're doing, to me, it's just about showing up for life, I guess, really. That's how I see it. It's about showing up for life. Okay, just because I'm, it's a Saturday and I don't really have anything particular I need to do. I'm going to be kind of, running a couple errands in my, neighborhood. It's just interesting to think that I see that as something I need to show up for. And you never know who you're going to run into when you're out. I always think about that. What if you run into someone you admire? What if you run into someone that you detest? Either way, you want to look your best for these occasions. And life is just a series of occasions. So why not show up for them in the best way possible? That's just all I'm saying. There are private times, and then there are public times, and being prepared for the public times makes life go a lot smoother. I feel people think it's like superficial too, and it isn't. It really isn't. Is it everything? No. But it's not superficial to, consider life something serious. And we talk about this, slipping standards in society. We talk about how, nothing is as good as it used to be. Service isn't as good. Travel isn't as good. People are looking like bums, and it's kind of trashy experience. And it's like, well, what have we fomented in our culture by not having these higher standards? By being more casual? It really hasn't been positive. It's been some like slacker, laid back mentality that leads to a slipping of standards over time. If we let our standards for ourselves, just in our appearance alone, it's not superficial. And it's not about who's the prettiest. It's not about who's the best dressed. It's not about any of that, but it is about who took the time to show up in the world in the best way possible as they're dealing in life. Why do we think that the experience at the grocery store, for example, doesn't matter? The employees there recognize me and treat me well because I show up when I go there. I look like I mean business, and you have a much better experience, when you show up to the occasion. I mean, how many people are they dealing with day in, day out who are in sweatpants and pajamas and just not looking their best, and slides and like wife beater? I mean, come on. It's like, I just don't get it. And like, you're making it also, it's like I don't know. I could go off for an hour about this because people are like, they're critical of me. They're like, oh, you're so egotistical, or you're so vain, or like, and it's like, I don't want to discount that. Sure. I do have a big ego, and I am vain. I'm not going to lie about that. It's true. But it isn't superficial. It does have a meaning. And, hopefully, if anything in the world, I just bring a little bit of that back. Well, okay, I understand. That's a good way of putting it, Frederick. I like that. Next time, because I do get asked about it. People are like, why do you dress so well? You always look so nice. And I'm like, it's my standard. I like to look nice. I like the way I look. We talked about this last night, women hating the way they look and me not relating, and me getting into it with feminists about that, back in the day. But it's, I'm off. I'm going off. I am egotistical, but that's it. I know my worth. Yeah. It's also showing up for me. I'm showing up for myself. I'm bringing my best self when I go out. Is this, why can't Jeff Riggins, hi, he says, I'm going to let the slides bang. It's hot as S word here. Okay. Jeff Friggins came here via John Frederick. Seems I'm a solid. Yeah, time will tell. I've been solid a long time. I'm a real person. Okay, y'all. I have a bit of sad news too before we get started. I have something to share with y'all. Bad news, sad news, okay? Let me get this queued up here. Y'all, I'm sad. I'm laughing uncomfortably, mind you. I'm one of those people. I do nervous laughter, which I think is why people, they're always like about the way I laugh. The reason I laugh the way I do is because it's a nervous laughter. People find it disarming and charming, but really I'm doing it usually because I'm like cringing or, upset and hiding it. That's kind of the essence of my laughter. Okay, let's see. Okay, let's get this cued. So here we go. It's my email that I pulled this up in. So yeah, want to say rest in peace today to a real one. I found out that my neighbor's dog, Merlin, who I had the pleasure of puppy sitting for, he's not a puppy, but dog sitting for over Christmas 2 years ago. He passed away. And I don't know, I looked after him for about a week and it was a really humbling experience. Actually, I kind of found that I didn't really have what it took to take care of a dog because he was so demanding. And he's a special needs dog, but he really taught me a lot in that week. And he's such a cool little dude. He's so sweet. He just wanted to love and be loved. He also has he had no teeth, so my cat as well is a creature that had to have their teeth removed. So he had a bit of a rough life. He went through, here's another photo of us I took. His sweet little face. Look at that. He always had his tongue hanging out the side, y'all. This dog was something. He was something. Look at that little tongue. Your brother has a dog named Merlin? I had a rat named Merlin many years ago. He was very special. You know those animals that you name Merlin? They got something magic about them. So yeah, he was one of those. I'm bummed. He wasn't my dog, but yeah, I did love him. And yeah, here's a picture I took of him in his little basket. Oh God. Merlin. Look at him. Irish Repub. I know. He wasn't though. He was very smart. He was a smart dog. He was very smart, actually. Then taking him for a walk was something. He was so interesting. So interesting. I learned so much. And it snowed the year that I looked after him over Christmas. So we had a white Christmas in Portland and we had to go out, and me and my scooter and this little guy, thankfully we live where we live and the sidewalks are always cleared really quickly. I like where I live. It's very convenient for me, but yeah. It was definitely his time. I know he's like 18, y'all. This little guy, he's old little dude. But God bless him. His daddy was he took such good care of him. And here's another photo of us together outside the elevators before we went out. Yeah. God, what a just, what a tough thing. I'm not sure what to do, like for my neighbors, if I should get them a card or make them one, or I don't know. I was at the store looking at flowers, but none of them really looked right. I don't know. I'll think of something that. Bobby Blanco, you are so rude with that. Please stop. You all don't understand the political situation in Oregon, and please, please. This state is wonderful. You don't and Portland is wonderful. Oh, and I got a boba today as well. I looked good at my boba place, and I looked good at the store because I bring it. And also, I was getting a free drink because this was one I earned. They had a punch card. I love places with a punch card. Something to look forward to over time. Hi, Dijon Pa. You like my earrings? Thank you. Yeah, I know I haven't worn these in a long time, but I took them out recently, wore them the other day. I was like, oh, these look really good. And yeah, so I put them on today. They're very nice. They're like beaded. I like beaded earrings. I have a few really interesting pairs. Crochet earrings. That would be interesting. Hi, Weird Beatnik. Oh, it's been a while. I'm well. Well, I mean, we just were saying goodbye to Merlin. Oh, what a little dude. But yeah, like I said, looking after him the week I did really did teach me that I probably, am not in a place in my life to have a dog. Because I was thinking like, oh, I'm going to move in this place and I'm going to like save up and I'm going to get a dog. And kind of looking after him. And yes, he was special needs. He needed very special care and attention. And I was thinking about it, and I was talking about it with his daddy. And I was like talking about how I appreciated looking after him because I really recognized in myself that I don't have what it takes right now in my life to really take care of a dog. And he was like, well, he's so special needs. You don't really need to worry about that. And I was like, well, no, you do, because anything can happen at any time. Life is fragile. Our bodies are, and their bodies are too, and I think of it like with an animal, it's a commitment that you make to them. It's a responsibility that you take on when you take on an animal. And just because I was thinking of it like, if I had this animal, I'm not going to think in my mind, oh, it's okay to take care of because it's healthy, but because it has some problem come up, that I'm not going to take care of it, or that'll be too much. Like, I'm really thinking like taking care of him as a special needs animal was like really eye-opening to me, because I have that kind of love. Like, I'm not gonna like, get rid of an animal just because it's got some health problem, or like not even health problems, but just like weird issues, Anyway, I don't know. I thought it might be good for him. But yeah, you're right. I did kind of introduce them, and yeah, Nero wasn't having it. He was not. I thought, oh, that's too bad, because I thought maybe if I got a small dog, it would be a better like companion for him than another cat. But no, I don't know. I think it would be bad because he just has this aggression in him and it's not him, you know? It is him. It is him. I he has this like just aggressive streak where his eyes change and he goes like into another dimension and he's just a killer, you know, and he's very triggered by sudden movements and other animals. It makes him go off. So I love that cat too. And my cat's a little special needs, you know, but he's also like the best. And so was Merlin. So rest in peace, the little Merlin. Anyway, long story short, love that dog. And he's no longer with us, but I'm glad that I got to be a part of his life. And I'm glad that he got, you know, the people to take care of him, you know, that he needed in life. Sweet little animal. That's sweet. Anyway. Move to the desert? Oh, goodness. Oh, I'm sure we are all a bit special needs, to be honest. Don't we all have special needs? Exactly, Frederick. I concur. I concur. He's my responsibility. And like you have to think about that when you take on new ones. I remember, I think it was Gregatron in the chat asked me once, like, okay, if you met Prince Charming and like he wanted to marry you and da da da, like, but you had to get rid of your cat, would you? And I was like, hell no. Like, how am I going to take on a new responsibility when I already have one? I've had other guys like mention that to me too. I had a guy ask me, well, what if you met a man that has asthma? And that's the, you know, man that God wants you to marry. I'm like, why would God send me a man with asthma? Or not even asthma, like not asthma, but like allergies to a cat. Sorry. I'm like, what? First off, like, why is God sending me somebody with a cat allergy when he sent me a cat to take care of? Like, what? He already sent me a cat. And I'm also like, I don't know. Like, I don't want to have the kind of life where we can't have a cat. Because cats come into life and they make a home a lot better. Like, really, we can't have a cat? They add a level of like richness to your life that is undeniable. Like cats make life more luxurious. They also teach you to be more present and to not take yourself so seriously. They're quite gifted companions. Yeah, really, Bobby? Right, right. I've had that. I've had cats like that. Yeah. Well, you live out like in the land, right? I mean, we had that in my cats growing up. Oh God, I remember when P-Man went missing for weeks. We'd given up. Like I thought he was dead. My dad did too. Like after a while, he didn't come back, and it was just so sad because he was a cat I found as well. I found him under our house one winter. He was stuck under our house, y'all. I like heard this animal crying and like I had to and he stunk so bad and he was emaciated. And he was like blind in one eye. He'd been in a fight with a dog. This is what we gathered from his examination by a vet. What they kind of put together was that he'd been bit over the head by a dog. So he was a dog, like, man, once we took him in, we nursed him back to health, man. And this cat was a richness in our life, you know? I'm so grateful that I got to grow up with them. I had them growing up, and I'm like, man, how do you have a home without a cat? And I think some people feel that way about dogs, and I concur, but I never really had a dog like that. I only had one dog that was my dog, and we had to get rid of her when we had to move into the city. So that was a very like heartbreaking moment for me as a child. My heart was so broken. Oh man. Anyway, big entry. Wow, it's 25 minutes in. I have not started reading the effing book. Okay. Let's do it. I know she's still alive because I still feel her food bowl. Okay, yeah, it's apples and oranges. Yeah, I know, they're different, but hey, I love animals though. And I love animals that are not cats and dogs, I had a fly visit me today. It was the cutest thing when I was out. It landed on my hand. And I said hello, and then it like kind of just flew off, but it was a nice little moment. Oh. Well, make sure they take time to grieve as well. I think it's important to do that when an animal dies, like recognize the loss. This, helps you appreciate them more the next animal that comes into your life, I think. Circling the bowl. I don't know, y'all. May your cat be blessed with more years of life. I do too. Oh my goodness. My mother in the yard, where my mother and stepfather live, there's these beautiful little black lizards that run around. They're so charming. There's tons of them. I love those vicious little dogs. Those tiny little vicious dogs. You want one of those after you? I know, they're so cute. Yeah, I mean, I love spiders. I love, we had a fly in here. Actually, there was I don't know what kind of fly it was. It had kind of a bluish, it was very, very small. And yeah, I looked at it, it was like white and blue, but very like an iridescent white on its wings. It was a beautiful little bug. That somehow got in here into my apartment. It was like on my mail that I brought in, and I noticed it, and I was like, looked at it. I was like, it was a very delicate one too. Like the wings were very delicate. So I was like, oh God, is it okay? Did I kill it? And I could have killed it if I, had that kind of mindset, because I see people do that, and I'm kind of like, if it's not a pest, like, don't kill it, So, yeah, I examined it. I was like, okay, it's good. And it was like climbing up and down, kind of confused on the like piece of mail. So I went out to my balcony and kind of just set the piece of mail it was on down. And it was there for a little bit, and then it kind of realized that it could fly off, and it did. So yeah. Oh. Oh. Anyway, let's get to chapter 2 and how not to be a boy. All right. And I have a function that I should probably make an appearance at this afternoon. So yeah, I'm kind of looking at the time. I didn't realize it was 2:30 already. The thing starts at 3, but I can be fashionably late to it. So, okay. Chapter 2, Boys Aren't Shy. Were we closer to the ground as children, or is the grass emptier now? Alan Bennett, 40 years on. It is a truth universally acknowledged that a woman of 30 with 3 sons and no income must be in want of a husband. I'm pretty sure that's how Pride and Prejudice begins, something like that. But it's fair to say that had one of Jane Austen's penniless heroines in Derbyshire, say in the early 1800s, found themselves in Pat's situation in Lincolnshire in 1977, they would probably come to a similar conclusion. So he's comparing his mother to Jane Austen heroine. Interesting. Austen's women can be shockingly dry-eyed when it comes to marriage. Yes, it would be preferable to marry for love, but love is only one of the reasons to marry. They are accomplished ladies with no formal education. Pat is a working-class woman who's certainly clever, but not clever enough to avoid getting knocked up before finishing her A-levels. Bless her. For Austen's heroines to sign on to the dole was impossible. For Pat, socially unthinkable. She has always had a part-time job as a school secretary, a hotel secretary, a bar worker. But she's just as likely to retrain or get a BTEC from Loughborough as Elizabeth Bennet is to split the atom. Lizzie can't rely on the support of her parents because they are genteel but broke. Pat can't expect long-term help from Nan and Dada because their gentility runs to an aspiring regard for the Daily Mail, but not to having any spare cash whatsoever. And Austen's ladies won't receive maintenance payments from their errant husbands to provide for their children, and neither will Pat, at least not for a long time. Now, this is interesting. So he's getting into the details of his parents' divorce and how his mother had to support them financially. Dad treats maintenance payments with the same baffled incredulity that his generation will soon adopt when told that wearing car seat belts is now the law. It's as if he can't believe the dumb literalism of it. What? Every month? The full amount? On time? Seriously? He has to be threatened with a court appearance before he starts supporting his family with anything like the same rigor with which he previously buggered it up. So yes, we've come a long way. Mom concludes that she needs another husband. I mean, yeah, indeed. I understand that. I understand her position. I'm not saying that's the decision every woman in her position would have made, but it's the one she made and I respect it. Anyway, she doesn't have to find Mr. Darcy. She has just to avoid another bloody Heathcliff. Oh, my friend and I were talking about Wuthering Heights last night a little bit. I was like, oh God. Kathy and Heathcliff. Oh man. I don't know. That kind of obsession is just so, I don't know, something about it. I love that. I love Wuthering Heights. Oh man. It's so horror. It's like love horror. I don't know. Oh, you know what? I didn't put my banner up. So the book name is in the title, y'all. But I'll put the ticker up so that we, love horror. Romantic horror. It is. I mean, it is. But it speaks to the elemental aspects of, passion and the dangerousness of love as well, and obsession and anyway, what people fear about it, the recklessness that kind of passion throws you into, the senselessness, the destructiveness of it. Well, anyway, she's down to her last two cards, her diffident charm, and it's the only opinion, but what son could say less? Considerable beauty, it'll be enough. The helpless target is Derek Lim. Oh, yeah. He's talking about his mom pulling another dude in to take care of him and his two brothers. She must have been something. You hear about that. Many people don't want to date single mothers, but, she must have had it, And you think about it too, like, everything she'd been through with her husband, and it's clear that he respects his mother a lot. And it's clear that how he identifies with her. Yeah, that too. Yeah, I think it's good to analyze. And I don't think his position as well. I think a lot of men have been in similar positions like this. And we talk about rebuilding the man, right? That I love that concept, rebuilding men. Well, we have to understand that different men have different, the way that men come to identify with the feminine more than the masculine, what's causing that? What's the breakdown in the masculine that causes this over-identification with the feminine in men? So I don't know. I'm finding it interesting. Well, no, they were already divorced. She left her husband and she went and found another one. I don't think that I don't know. We don't know yet. Maybe she was still married to him when she was making this guy her target. Oh, Southern fried love. How lovely. Southern fried love. Thank you, sweetie. Okay. They meet at a village ball at the Golf Hotel. He is not the only man offering to buy her a drink that evening, but he's the one who looks sufficiently grateful and claims to own a racehorse, which is a start. Derek is not exactly Sasha Distel. 8 years older than Mum, he has a colorless wart on his top lip and a paunch which presages, or maybe presages, I'm not really familiar with that term, a future rendezvous with Fat. Fat is coming for Derek. Fat will have its day. There again, Mum is on the pull and not wearing her glasses. More to the point, Derek is a teetotal and mild. He sounds nice. Oh, doesn't Derek sound nice? Isn't it nice that this lovely woman came into this man's life and let him get fat? Winningly, there is nothing in his demeanor to suggest an interest in screwing other women or hooding children. For Mum, this makes him a veritable prince among men. It's not so much a courtship as an Anschluss. What is Anschluss? I'm not familiar with this term, Anschluss. It's German, I suppose. I like that he's teaching me new words. How does it spelled? Anschluss. Okay, there it is. A political union with Austria and Germany, achieved through annexation by Adolf Hitler in 1938. Interesting. Interesting. Okay. Anschluss was the annexation of Austria by Germany. Interesting. Indeed. Indeed. But you know what? I think about this Derek fellow. He must have had a very boring life. And here's this attractive, clever, decent woman who's been done wrong by, you know? And she's just looking for the kind of guy who is decent. That's all she's really looking for, is a guy who's decent. And he's had this boring life. And here comes this woman who's like out of his league physically, right? Just saying, you know, it's like, it's kind of a sweet thing when that happens. When you see, you know, and it sounds, you know, I don't know. He sounds, and you know, he's willing to take on this woman, her 3 sons, mind you. He has to, you know, but I just think of it, he must have been, you know, quite an interesting character. You know, he sounds like a very boring man, but you know, boring is good. You know, sometimes boring, you know, boring wins out in the end. Because you think about it, like who her first husband was probably, you think about them growing up, like, I don't know. It's just interesting. The chat is interesting right now. Any of y'all ever dated single mothers? No, I haven't. Reading Peter Pan. Yeah, he is a bit Peter Pan. There's some, you know, I'm not going to lie. There's something about there's something, you know, I think in women that is drawn to that kind of childishness in men sometimes. And it's their own desire to be a mother. And they're not really recognizing that, you know, I find. But it's you're not, in order to be a decent mother, you know, you have to find a man that's not a child. And that's, yeah. What, do you only go on one date? Her babysitter needed to go home. I mean, what's early? What, did she have to go home at the hour that they specified, or did an emergency come up? Yeah, I imagine it's difficult stepping into that. But this is why I think women shouldn't even bring their kids into the equation until it's, I don't know. But then I think about it, some women are mercenary and they're just looking for a guy to, like, you know, help support them, you know, because they're used to that. But I wonder about it, you know, and I do think there is something to staying single. Like if you do end up in this situation, God forbid, where you and the father or mother of your child split, like maybe it is, I think, the best thing for the kids if you don't bring new people in, like emotionally speaking. It can be really damaging to them. You know, they can get attached to these people and then have them split. That can be like, again, a re-traumatization of losing the other parent. So, you know, and then with the cases where split custody, I don't know how kids deal with that. It sounds so stressful. Not that I don't think people should have access to their kids. I do. But you hear about these cases where it's like down the middle, the kid spends half the time with both parents, and it just sounds so like confusing. They have to do everything twice as well. It's, yeah, it's, you know, it's, the split up of a family is a really tough thing. It really is a tough thing. I think it's sad that he and, that his mother and father couldn't work out their differences. I think that's very sad. And it sounds like he really does blame his father. And it does sound like his father was being terrible. I mean, it's, yeah. That must have been very stressful for her to be like personally taken for granted, possibly subjected to like venereal diseases from his, extramarital activities, being subjected to the stress and, emotional strain of that. And then having him be too violent with the children and like frightening the children, like, be terrorizing them and being violent. I don't know. That must have been like so stressful on her. So it's it's just sad. It's sad that they could not overcome that. But it must have been a marriage made in hell. Well, I mean, that's what it is to be a parent, I think if you don't want to be a parent, don't date a single parent. Too, if you have to understand that like you're going to come second. Unless you marry this person, then the expectation that you come first comes into play. But like, otherwise, you're going to have to take a back seat. They can't make you that priority. And you have to be willing to like deal with that. But yeah, it's much easier if you don't have to deal with that. I think for somebody like it sounds like this Derek guy, this might have been a really good thing for him. He might not have had a chance with a woman otherwise. And, having a woman in your life is a blessing. If you're given a decent woman, she's going to make your life a lot richer. And if she has kids, she's already used to having kids and having a home, like that's going to, and if they're decent kids and you can instill authority and be kind of the man of the house, it can be a very enriching thing. So I don't want to discount that. Derek might not have had that chance with anyone else to have that kind of experience in life. So I think you just have to be conscious though, as you make your decisions and look at like, why am I doing this? But maybe, I can see that this might have been a good thing overall for the both of them, for like his mother and Derek. And hopefully with his father's other woman, I don't know if they were married or not. It was a similar situation. I don't know. If they weren't married, it probably wasn't. Okay. We all move into the new house, which is a 3-bedroom bungalow in Coningsby, a village about 10 minutes down the road from Woodhall, but less leafy. On return from their honeymoon in the Lake District, the first time Derek has left Lincolnshire. Okay, this guy sounds boring. He'd never left his county. Yeah, she's probably the best thing that ever happened in his life. Seriously. I stand by Robert's mom. Pat was a real one. Okay. We began to learn more of Derek's fascinating habits. He smokes 40 consulate menthol cigarettes a day, and his, according to Derek, totally unrelated cough is treated by his cough medicine. The medicine comes in an endless series of large brown bottles from the chemist, on a repeat prescription that Derek's GP wrote shortly before he died. Derek self-medicates by upending the bottle into his mouth and counting to 20. Once a week, he buys himself a half a pound of aniseed balls, which he keeps loose in his trouser pockets, along with his small change and the keys to his glamorous Pacer X American car, which he can't afford to drive very often because it drinks petrol. I want to see this car. Pacer X. Yeah, I've never heard of this. Okay, it's cute. Oh my God, I want one, y'all. Oh my God. I want one. Look at this car. It's so adorable. Oh my goodness. Let me move this camera. Okay. These are adorable. A print of one, that would be cute to put up, wouldn't it? Look at this. Oh. Look at it. I love it. I want one. Well, anyway. When he gets to the seed of an aniseed ball, he's in the habit of taking it out and leaving it on any convenient surface. The only time he gets cross is if my brothers or I talk over the racing results when he's trying to listen to them on the radio with the 5mm aniseed nucleus stuck to the top of the radio tube knob. It's fascinating to watch the speed and efficiency with which he can fill in those results on the racing page of the Daily Mirror. Derek has inherited an agricultural spare parts business from his late father. Essentially, he buys tractors and takes them to pieces. This would be a good business for someone who was there to do it, but Derek is mainly not there. Derek is at the Bookies. He has a low-level gambling addiction. Oh, God. Here we go. Did I speak too soon? Oh, Lord. Which means that when customers turn up, we know what number to call. I know the Bookies' phone number off by heart before I'm 8 years old. A quarter of an hour later, the Pacer X makes its stately return. Sometimes the customer is still there, sometimes he isn't. In short, Mom has married another prize turkey. She swapped Darth Vader for Jabba the Hutt. That is, if you can't imagine Jabba, not so much like as a dangerous gangster, but more as a silly bugger picking his nose and watching Bullseye. The search for a likable father figure goes on, a man who is gentle without being docile, dynamic without acting like a psychopath. I wonder to myself if such a man really exists. Well, there's always Dada, or Dar. He says it's pronounced Dar. This is Mom's dad, John. He and Grace, Nana and Dada, are the steward and are the steward and stewardess of the kitchen at Woodhall Spa Golf Club. Grace's sister Trudy, Auntie True, works in the kitchen too. The three of them live in a little house, which you get from the kitchen by running across the fields. Although for some reason they prefer to walk. What is it with grown-ups and all this walking? I stay with them every weekend and for about half of any school holiday. One day in the distant future, Derek will express disappointment that people in the village tell him my Wikipedia page says that I grew up in Woodhall Spa, when in fact I lived with him and Mum in Coningsby for 14 years. I tell him truthfully that I don't have anything to do with that page. What I don't say is that this impression has certainly come from the answers I've given in interviews. Where did you grow up? Woodhall Spa. Or more accurately, the kitchen, grounds, and gardens of Woodhall Spa Golf Club. That's where I grew up. Okay, so this is interesting. So his grandparents were in service, basically. A type of service. Okay. And they lived on the grounds that they worked. How interesting. But I can see, yeah, we do grow up though when we're with our grandparents, you know. I do see that if he's with his grandparents every weekend and on holidays. Y'all are vile in my chat. You're on a women's chat. Can you please keep your comments about women not discussing that mess? Like, you're being vulgar. Can you please not? Go do that when you're on a man's page. It's a lady shouldn't have to read that. Come on. Sound sheltered like cake. What? Yeah, it is a bit like a Datsun. I had a friend who had a cute Datsun truck. She loved that thing. And it was cute. I rode in it a couple times with her. Okay, you said some vulgar things, though. Can you not be vulgar? Can you not refer to women's genitalia in my chat, please? Do I need to be that specific? And not racialized genitalia stuff? Goodness. Goodness. Do I need to be reading that? Bill and Ted car? Yes, a bit. That's a good point. It is a bit of a Bill and Ted car. I love that thing. I'm going to look them up. I'm going to be looking them up. I love looking at vintage cars. So fun. They're fun to think about, but it's like, no, they're not practical. I mean, they could be. They could be. Why does everything, well, I don't know. Okay. That's where I grew up. And in front of the TV, that's the other place. Buck Rogers, Michael Knight, Zorro, Dick Turpin, Bo and Luke, John and Paunch, Steve Austin, The Doctor, Thomas Magnum, Hannibal Smith, Colt Sievers, Captain Kirk, Commander Koenig, Dr. David Banner, Mr. T, Tucker Jenkins, Raj Blake, Flash Gordon, Logan, Monkey, Steel, Starbuck, Stringfellow, Hawk, and Robin Hood. What a great bunch of guys, and not a father among them, not one. And according to most of them, there are few problems in life that can't be solved by punching someone quite hard in the face. These are my alternative role models. We're off to a terrific start. Dardar is hammering a wooden stake into the earth, and I blink with every strike. I'm going to use his name, John, from now on because Dardar is annoyingly close to Dad, and we can do without the confusion. John is a big man in his early 60s with gray hair kept neatly in check with a steel comb. His mustache is gray too, more bristly but somehow friendlier looking than Dad's. He has some extra weight in these days, but he carries it with an upright economy of a soldier, which of course which is, of course, what he was. They all were. War generation. His granddad was in World War II, baby. Trudy and Grace were in the ATS and the Wrens, respectively, the women's branches of the Army and Navy. The kitchen crosswalk is peppered with wartime idioms like, ooh, stand by your beds, or do we think it's time for a naffy break? I'm here because I've been encouraged by Nan and True to go and help Dardar with the greenhouses. Since I'm not much taller than your average tomato plant or stronger than one of its stems, it's not so much a matter of helping as of watching. But I quite enjoy these trips to the greenhouses with John. On the way, we have slow bike races back down the back lane, seeing who can go slowest on his bike without falling off. He never seems to be in much of a hurry, and that's the main thing I like about him. No sudden moves. Currently, I tend to win the slow bike race because my little red rally still has stabilizers, although I'm perfectly capable of overbalancing and falling off anyway. As well as the kitchen steward, John is also one of the club gardeners. In my memory, the greenhouse itself is this vast glass menagerie of flowers and shrubs, roughly the size of the Crystal Palace. I suppose it was actually just a fairly big shed with a moldy glass roof. He would find the greenhouse key, the one with the blue string kept under a flower pot, and then I'd follow him inside, my nostrils suddenly accosted by the chlorophyll funk of tomato plants. I could just about manage one of those smaller watering cans, so he could make that one of my jobs. Outside, John is banging in those wooden posts. Oh, what a fun experience for him to be with his grandparents and to have his grandfather teaching him about taking care of tomatoes. Oh, this sounds so exciting. Do you think Dardar was actually growing ganja in Lincolnshire? At the country club? Okay. Outside, John is banging in those wooden posts. He'll use them to stretch a taut string down the line of carrots and then tie on the bird scarers. These are rectangles of colored foil that flutter in the wind as if we are growing a patch of Willy Wonka's golden tickets. There's not much helping I can do here. So John takes a hoe and, a little optimistically, tries to show me how to break up the soil in a nearby bit of garden. He hands me the massive wooden pole with a slab of rusting iron on the end and gets back to his work. I wield the hoe with the panache of Fred Astaire dancing with his cane. Except in this case, Fred's lost his cane, and his friend Mike, who is a professional pole vaulter, has lent Fred his vaunting pole, and Fred is trying to swirl and spring around with that instead. On his return, John watches my efforts for an amused moment and then says, "Yeah, you're getting in your own way, mate." Yeah, you getting in your own way, mate. He takes the hoe as if it's made of polystyrene and expertly churns the soil, slashing weeds and flicking unwanted stones onto the gravel path with all the untroubled grace of Zorro, using a bullwhip to extinguish a candle at 20 paces. Yes, he does sound quite something. Ugh. Y'all are crazy. My lovely little chat, and they're being so nasty in it. Me being all lovely, reading my very smart book, my very smart, respectable English book. And here you are being being nasty to one another in the chat. Look at you. Oh my goodness. Let's continue. He is a kindly grandparent, my Dardar, but not exactly a born teacher. I want the display of manly competence and feel my infant pride being gently compressed into a pancake. Back in the kitchen, Nan lets me run a finger around the bowl of the delicious scone mix that she's just made. And Auntie Trudy supplies me with a ham sandwich the way I like it, quartered diagonally with the crust cut off. Oh yeah, that's the stuff. Am I a Pisces? Indeed, I am not. But I respect you thinking that I am. I have Piscean ways. I do have prominent Piscean placements. I do. And I'm a Christian, so I'm about that. Fish life. But no. Keep guessing. It's close because you know what? It's the other mermaid sign, okay? I'll give you that hint. All right? It's the other mermaidy sign. Okay, let's see. I take the sandwich, hoping that John won't notice the absent crusts. He is a strong advocate of what seems to be the male consensus, that the crusts on sandwiches are the best bit, as is the fat on ham, the rind on bacon, the runny surface of a fried egg, the stalk of any vegetable, and the skins on sausages. All of this is the best bit, with a view which I think insane, but I'm clearly in the minority. My dad was similar. He told me the same thing. Like the stuff that was nasty and like the texture, like I hated fat on meat. I hated, yeah. I don't know about crust. I didn't have so much of a problem with crust. Sometimes I did. You know what? I need to take a brief intermission, y'all. So, get some drinkies, snackies, take a little break. I'm going to be back shortly. And then I want to, I think, finish this chapter and then we'll say adieu. But yeah, I'll be back shortly. Okay, I see that the chat has been going well in my absence. Thank you all for holding it down while I had to take a little break, as ladies do sometimes. Okay, so we're learning about Robert Webb's his maternal grandparents, and the role they kind of had in his life and the significance that they played in his perception of his coming to adulthood. So yeah, interesting stuff. And his Auntie Trudy. Shout out to Auntie Trudy. And they were war generation, World War II. So they were insanely tough people. True. Were you helping Jar Jar? Nods. Me nods. John. Ooh, he was helping all right. He was helping me like mad. Winks at me. True. I bet he was. John. Every time I turned round, there was Rob. Helping his head off. Nan. Course he was. A big, strong lad like him. Aw. How sweet. John checks his watch and moves to the oven, taking one of the vast beef joints out and setting it on the table. The meat crackles in its juices at my eye level. He takes his bone-handled carving knife in one hand and a sharpening steel in the other, and flashes the blade against the steel with scarcely credible speed and power. I eat my sandwich, watching. Outside, I play on my own whenever I can, which is almost always. Mark and Andrew are so much older, and they do their own thing. To me, this seems to consist mainly of going to Jubilee Park with their friends in order to fall out of trees. I can hardly picture my brothers from those days without one of them with his arm in a plaster. I take a more cautious approach to the outdoor life. And I don't do it with other children, unless, of course, you count the Guy-Bys. The Guy-Bys are my imaginary gang of friends. I can relate to him. I had a very isolated childhood like this as well. I spent a lot of time playing outside with my imagination. And it was good for me, definitely. But it does produce interesting traits in an individual. So I think, yeah, hearing that he had, even though he had siblings, he spent a good deal of his childhood on his own. Or he played by himself, at least. He was used to playing by himself and having to use his imagination. I'm grateful for it, to be honest. I really did have a lovely childhood when I think about it. Of course, there were aspects of it that were tough, that when I look back. But the fact that I got to have so much free time outside playing, just with my imagination and being like inspired by the things I was inspired by. I don't know. It definitely produced interesting characteristics in me as a child that I see in myself now. And I appreciate it. I'm so grateful that that was provided for me. Well, anyway. I am the captain of the Guy-Bys. Obviously, there are 12. Yes, 12, like the apostles, men. One day, my wife will put this together with what she knows of my sexual history and come up with one of her favorite ways of taking the piss. What were they called again, your imaginary friends? The gay boys? The Guy-Bys. The gaybos? The Guy-Bys. Not the bi guys. No, dear, not the bi guys. The Guy-Bys. Let me tell you, there is nothing gay about the Guy-Bys. If there were girls in the Guy-Bys, that would be different and indeed gay. If I understand two things about masculinity at the age of 7, it is A, the sovereign importance of despising girls. Wait, no, the sovereign importance of early homophobia. Sorry, I skipped a line. The sovereign importance of early homophobia, and B, the paramount objective of despising girls. Nobody wants to be a gay, and only gays play with girls. This much has been made clear. As I hold the door open for the guy-bys and count them into the kitchen, I remind them that to play with girls would be lunacy. Generally, we go around on our bikes, fighting crime. Actually, I go around on my toy tractor with pedals, or for a while on an apple box, which I've tried sellotaping to Andrew's skateboard. But basically, we range around the whole of the golf club, acting out scenarios from TV shows. Sometimes I'm Zorro, sometimes one of the wisecracking traffic cops from Chips, and always heavily armed with a selection of my favorite plastic swords and guns. Of course, like Steve Austin and Buck Rogers, I am also an expert in karate. I get used to the quizzical looks on the faces of golfers as they walk by, observing the 7-year-old kicking and chopping the teeth out of some invisible villain. I love little boys. Aren't they sweet? It's sad to me. I think about that, and it's such a aspect of little boys. They have that kind of energy they need to get out, and it's it's treated as, I think it's pathologized in our culture a lot too. What? This is sweet. When I was little, I would keep my Batman costume on for 2 weeks. That's awesome. I love when I see little boys in their when they're in their costumes and they're in their imaginations, how physical they get. There's this boy at my church who is just lovely. He's got so much energy and he's crazy. And I just think I'm so glad that this child is not medicated. I'm glad that, he has a loving community around him that accepts him and allows him to be a boy and be full of that crazy energy. It's just Oh, I never saw these. I don't remember these at all. I don't remember seeing that. Modern Gentleman. You better be the next one to comment. You can't shut down the chat like that. Okay, Jeff is gay. This is what Modern Gentleman has said. But Jeff has taken the heat for the chat. Thank you. Shout out to Jeff for being gay. We accept you. You're still one of us. Irish Repub said something I was going to respond to too. Sorry, but the chat is going so fast. That Olympic chef was madness. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't watch the Olympics. I don't like sports. Really. I'm not a sporty type. I don't know if y'all have gathered that, but it's not ever been my thing. I do like soccer a little bit. I can get into that. And I like dance. I don't want to say I'm completely not into that, or I'm not, if I watch it, I can't appreciate it. I do there's some ice skaters that I've enjoyed watching. I do like to watch ballet, which is very, athletic. I'm trying to think what else. I appreciate dance, and other things, but I don't know. A lot of sports do kind of put me off. Sports specifically, like team sports, and it's also very. I don't know, uninteresting to me. So I forget. Yeah, I know they were going on in Paris. And I know there's been a bunch of stuff about it, but I really don't know what's been going on. So you'll have to catch me up. Modern Gentleman says, shout out to Big Gay John. The opening ceremony was very strange, to say the least. Is football gay too? Oh dear. I suppose, yeah. I suppose. Occasionally, a golfer will mime a quick draw and say something inscrutable about Buffalo Bill and chuckle to himself. I just stare back, waiting for him to go away. Spend any amount of time with middle-class liberal parents, and speaking as a middle-class liberal parent, I find these C words impossible to avoid. And sooner or later, you'll find yourself talking about gendered play. You'll hear a version of the following. I mean, we gave India a Star Destroyer for her birthday, but she just dressed it in a nightie and put it to bed. Or, I mean, we tried to get Huckleberry to play with a couple of dolls, but he just tied them together with string and turned them into nunchucks. I hated when boys played with my dolls. I had numerous occasions where boys took my Barbies and like ripped their heads off or played with them so violently that their heads came off. And then Barbie, you can stick Barbie's head back on, but she never looks quite the same, okay? It's upsetting. Wouldn't that be wonderful? Oh, I would love to read that, wouldn't you? Y'all, Robert Webb. It's in, look. It's in the title. It's in the ticker, for God's sakes. Robert Webb, the English comedian Robert Webb. Okay? This guy, the guy from Peep Show, the guy from the Mitchell and Webb duo. They did so many different films together, series. He's done his own thing. Yeah, he like a faux show. He's openly bisexual. He is married to a woman. He's a married father and husband. Married husband. But yeah, but he's writing about I know. Is it 3:45 already? And I haven't even gotten through chapter 2. What a day. An hour and 36 minutes in. You are such a good kitty. But this is Webb spelled with 2 B's. You love Webb's, Batman. Well, I guess not. But I would think you would. We don't want a German gay books. He's English. They're only part German. Okay. Some people can't get enough of stories like these. Imagine trying to get a girl to play with a spaceship. Ah ha 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 ha. See how fashionable liberal attitudes get slammed face first into a wall of timeless biological reality. It's PC gone mad. Ah ha 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 ha. I mean, I played with boys' toys, toys that, I didn't like all of the toys that boys played with, but I had G.I. Joes, little soldiers that I had fun playing with. And what else? I liked like the little Hot Wheels cars. I loved playing with those. Those were so fun to play with. And I did like trucks. I mean, but I liked a lot of gender neutral toys as well, like Legos. I liked playing outside. I loved Barbie dolls, especially. I loved playing with those. Um, I don't know. And then I'm trying to think what else I played with. My troll dolls, which I guess are kind of more girly. They're definitely more girly. Um, and I added on boys who were into dolls a bit too, or who could play dolls. There were some boys that could play dolls, but most of them couldn't. Most of them treated your dolls very harshly. They didn't understand how delicate dolls are. And they probably still are out here not understanding how delicate dolls really are. Hmm. Yeah, those were fun. Yes, the track. Oh yeah, Pogs. I was into Pogs as well. Those were gender neutral. And I was into like making art and crafting. And there was a time when I even like made bracelets and like I made these hair ties and keychains and stuff for my dad's for the business he kind of had going with his dream catchers. I made like those sorts of things and sold them as well. So, I had a lot of cool things I was doing as a kid. Hey baby, I love you. I love you. Yeah. Did they say I have toxoplasmosis? They say you gotta have that to love a cat. Isn't that crazy? Is that crazy? Not as crazy as we are about each other. I was like, he loves me too. And he was like, that's because he got it too. And I'm like, no, not my kitty. You were so cute when the day we met. Weren't you so cute? And you're still so cute. Do you think the same about me? I'm way cuter than I was then, aren't I? Yeah, I probably am. He must have thought he hit the jackpot because I was a fat bitch at that time. Pardon my language. He must have been like, oh yeah, she got the food. I'm going with this one. Oh, cool. Yeah, I did. I had some yard sales that were interesting as a kid. I don't know. Being a kid was so fun. And being a kid in the 90s too. Like, we were the best last generation. Oh, I definitely shared. It was so interesting because where I was living in this like small town at the time in Arizona, and there were all these feral cats. It was a real mess, and feral chickens around. It was a crazy experience living there, but I'm grateful for it. It definitely there were some beautiful things, and making at the time my little witch house in the desert. I felt like very cool. But yeah, meeting him was something else. Meeting this coming across this little kitten and having him adopt me. I mean, he was like on like immediate. I I just remember like going over to him and I went like, and he just this little tiny black kitten and he just ran right into my arms. He like literally leaped into my arms, y'all. This dude, this little kitty. Like it's so sweet when I think about it. When I really think about it, like it was just such a blessing. And he's been such a blessing to me. Yes. Yes. I ever sacrificed for those chickens? Indeed, I did not. I don't need to be sacrificing chickens. I'm not into that. They did have a really beautiful botanica in the town, though. There was this botanica. Oh, what was it called? Oh, I probably have a picture of it on my Instagram. Uh, or maybe I'll look it up and see if they have a presence online. I don't know. It was really cool. Um, Me and my one of my coworkers went there. Yeah, Santa Teresa, I think. Yeah, they had incredible stuff. I remember getting some like smudge for my dad there. I got like a little urn for him to burn this stuff. And they had all these interesting altars in the place. I mean, I think about it now, like I'm like, oh God. There's another botanica in Yuma. I know this is like a plant shop, which is that's nice. But yeah, they had a yeah, I think it was Santa Teresa, that botanica. Let's see if I can get any good images of it. Yeah, they only have 2 images in Google Earth, and you can't see it. Beautiful little spot. Really beautiful little shop. Well, anyway, but yeah, no chicken sacrificing in my past. I never did anything like that. Good God. Good God. All right. Let's get back to the book. I love you. I love you. Okay. Okay. Actually, it's timeless biological reality gone mad. In children, it's about as easy to find conclusive evidence of a male brain or a female brain as it is to find conclusive evidence of an immortal soul. As imaging technology improves, it becomes clearer that not only that every brain is unique, but that they simply do not neatly divide into two groups based on sex. I'm only citing one study here, and if in general you're not going to find this book very city. Other people have covered this ground much better than I could, what with being scientists. And so this would be a good moment to recommend Delusions of Gender by Cordelia Fine. I remember, yeah, I never got around to reading that one, but that was a big one, especially like as I was coming into my radical feminist era. A lot of women were influenced by that I knew, and recommended it. But yeah, I never got around to reading that one. I'm not really into that kind of stuff, like scientific studies type stuff. I mean, I can't say that I'm not completely, but that one was a big point for especially the radical feminists in their understanding of the concept, especially around transgenderism, where they try to claim that people have the brain of a woman or the brain of a man in a woman's body, or whatever, they try to claim that your I don't know, that your neurochemistry is somehow similar to the opposite sex, and that's why you're experiencing this condition. So they recommend that book to kind of dispute that concept. So from that angle. So, and then there's another book that he recommends here, Pink Brain, Blue Brain by Lise Elliott. So those are 2 books by women. Interesting. But the point stands, if Huckleberry doesn't like the color pink, he wasn't born with that idea in his head. Somebody put it there. Oh my God. It's not that boys don't like the color pink, it's that they don't like girls. Like really, and pink is associated with girls, but it's not that they don't like the color. Silly. But anyway, and the I mean, who doesn't like pink? Pink is nice. I like to see a man in pink. It's very like, I don't know, it can look nice on a guy. Little pink. Okay. Yeah, I knew a lot of people who did read it. Okay. Yeah, that's right, Modern Gentleman. I mean, guys look nice in pink, like a nice like pink button up on a guy can look really charming. Or I don't know, like accessories. I love when a guy has or yeah, little touches of pink or even a pink. It can look really nice. Exactly. We're all pink on the inside. And women look nice in blue. I love to wear like a good blues sometimes. Blue colors. I find they can be very pretty on girls. So, whatever. Yeah, a nice faded pink. Exactly. It's very charming. Well, anyway, let us continue. In the above mentioned delusions of gender, Cordelia Fine cites a study from 2000 in which mothers were shown an adjustable sloping walkway and asked to estimate the steepness of the slope their crawling 11-month-old child could manage and would attempt. Girls and boys differed in neither their crawling ability nor risk taking when it came to testing them on the walkway. But mothers underestimated girls and overestimated boys, in both in crawling ability and crawling attempts. Well, I think there are differences that are apparent in like boys and even at a small age, but I don't really until puberty. There's a lot of similarity in what they're able to physically do, just from what I've observed. They may have different like temperaments sometimes, but like in terms of ability, until puberty really kind of causes the physical changes in the body. I don't think that boys are like stronger or like tougher necessarily. That's something that comes with the development of the body into like the further sex characteristics. And then I think, they do kind of start to shift because the nature of it. Well, anyway. I'm sure that most of those mothers would be horrified to hear that their gender assumptions had leaked into their behavior like that. But to put it mildly, there's a lot of it about. Other studies have shown that when parents place birth announcements in newspapers, they are more likely to express pride if it's a boy and happiness if it's a girl. Indeed, if it's a girl, they are marginally less likely to make the announcement at all. Oh, oh, that's because boys will tease them and be like, "You're not a real man. You made a girl first." Y'all need to stop that. I hear that. I'm like, oh, goodness. Because I've known some men who have like all girls. And let me tell you, it takes a strong man to manage a household of multiple women without any other males to help him keep them in line, man. That's a strong man. I'm thinking of my uncle with his girls. Mm. That must have been an interesting thing to come across. I love getting books at Goodwill. I love thrifting books. You find some interesting stuff, really, that ends up there. If you're if you're into reading, I definitely suggest checking out Goodwill. Hit up your local Goodwills because you'll find good books. That is hilarious. Fred, weren't you in here last night saying how much you missed Kmart with the rest of us? Don't act like you don't miss Kmart. Who misses Kmart? Press 1 if you miss Kmart. Oh man, yeah. Okay, let's see. Let's get back to his feminist propaganda here. Going even further back along the timeline of a child, research has found that parents look forward to having their baby for gendered reasons. Fathers citing the fun they're going to have teaching their sons sports, and mothers showing higher expectations of personal intimacy with their daughters. Huh. Some hope, but hey lads, don't worry about forgetting mom's birthday. You've been off the hook since you were in utero. Expectant mothers who know the fetus is male are more likely to report fetal movement as violent. I'm sure they do get violent in there. I've seen things. So the odds are that Huckleberry, compared to India, is expected to be more independent, more aggressive, more outward-facing, and less interested in personal relationships since before he was born. With the best will in the world, bunging him in a Barbie when he's 5 years old isn't really going to cut it. There I am, the captain of the Guy-Bys, hopelessly unsocialized and massively into my swords and guns. It is the most normal thing about me, so I prize it highly. In between shootouts, chases, and sword fights, the Guy-Bys and I retire to one of our dens to make repairs and plan the next massive punch-up. I have about 5 dens in various locations around the club. They are not difficult to build. What you do is you snap a couple of branches in a conveniently thin part of a rhododendron bush. I love is it rhododendrons? Rhododendrons. It's rhododendrons, isn't it? Excuse me. Men are terrible at dressing themselves. A lot of them are. A lot of them, this is part of it. They're like, they don't. Not our Fred. Obviously, Fred always looks his best. And Batman, of course, knows how to dress as well. Oh, how cool. That sounds interesting. Wow. Do they have an icy machine? I don't know if my Kmart had an icy machine. I miss Kmart. Yeah, I've never been to a Hot Bins. I don't know. Like whenever I visit Florida, it's like, I don't know. It's usually a restful time. I'm visiting my family and they're so busy usually. But I don't know. There's usually someone to take me around. The last time I went, we did go out a bit. I went out with my Uncle Donald and his girlfriend that's not his girlfriend. She was very lovely, I have to say. My Uncle Donald. Oh my goodness. What a guy. I loved him. He performed one of his poems for me that he wrote about my aunt who's deceased. That was really beautiful. And he's deep. He's a deep soul, but man, I don't know. He's that. I don't know. He's a bit of a gigolo. I don't know with the ladies. I shouldn't be saying this about my uncle. I love and respect him, and he was very sweet to me. He was so excited to meet me too. He really was. Donald from Orlando. He probably is over there. Is there a very handsome man, Italian man, Italian and Irish man with a chain? I swear to God, I love him. He was very sweet to me. I remember it was so cute when the morning, or after I got up from my nap, I think when I went to visit them last, and he as soon as I got, he was like, "Oh, do you want something to eat?" And he starts making me, dishing me up some stuff and help, getting me all set up. And one of the family friends who was staying there was like, "How come you never do that for me?" And I was like, "Because you're not his sweet little niece that he never met before." And then we had some beautiful times visiting, actually, and I got to know him and hear about his life and more about my family. And it was so interesting because they were staring at me and they're like, "Oh my God, he looks so much like Bonnie. It's incredible." And I don't think about that sometimes because I really do look like my mother a lot. I look like my father as well, but it's depending on the angle, there's just this, this kind of unmistakable. I mean, it's, you know how it is with family, but it's interesting anyway to hear other people comment on it. And they'll be like, you look just like your mother. You look just like your mother. When you hear that from people, it's like, what? I don't know, especially I think growing up without her, and then kind of being an adult and hearing these things about when she was younger, what she was like, and the fact that I still reflect her so much. It's beautiful. We don't think about our biological families that much, and sometimes it's discounted, or we don't think about that component of people, but it really is significant. There was a time in my life where I didn't think it was, but it really is. Batman, how dare you say that about my uncle? Do 23andMe. It'd be interesting. I have no opinion. Do it if you want. Don't do it. I don't think we need to get that into it to know ourselves either. I mean, or to know about where we came from. Sometimes you just have to look at your immediate surroundings, those your parents and aunts and uncles, and you can kind of put enough together. But anyway. In between shootouts, chases, and sword fights, the guy buys and I retire to one of our dens to make repairs and plan the next massive punch-up. I have about 5 dens in various locations around the club. They are not difficult to build. What you do is you snap a couple of branches in a conveniently thin part of a rhododendron bush and then just step inside. Some of the bushes are literally the size of a house. That's true. They can get so big. They're beautiful. My mother really loves those flowers as well. And we have a lot of them here. And there was a time in her life when she lived in the Seattle area. She lived in Seattle and she also lived around Seattle. So, those flowers are really big there as well. But anyway, they're really lovely flowers. Inside, the sunlight dapples the cart of dirt and leaves, and I look up to the canopy and listen. There's a blackbird sitting on a branch of a nearby horse chestnut tree. Autumn's coming. Must ask Auntie True for a Tupperware box. Those conkers won't just collect themselves. And in September, a new school, Coningsby Junior School, where you're 7 till 11. Bigger boys. And some of the teachers are men. W.H. Smiths have already put their back to school signs up. Why do they spell it the easy way that's wrong instead of the hard way that's right? Maybe they're just trying to be nice. Nobody really likes this time of year, do they? Just one long Sunday tea time. What's that sound? Miles away, probably. One of the Vulcans? No, not deep enough. A phantom. That's the one. Auntie Edna, who works in the kitchen with the others, says it's good that Coningsby has Vulcan bombers because if it happens, Robbie, it'll be over so quick we won't know anything about it. They say on the news that America has more nuclear missiles than Russia, so I suppose it's good that our team is winning. A phantom jet up there, way up there, beyond the roof of my leafy cathedral. Hey, 43, hey there, little buddy. 7 draws his sword. 7, friend or foe? 43, friend. So how's it going, dude? Silence. 43, sorry, hello, you might not recognize me, but I'm 43. Pardon? I'm 43. I'm 7. Yes, exactly. How are you doing? Pardon? How are you? I'm very well, thank you. Good. Silence. Yep, you see, I'm writing this book and I wondered if you could help me. Looking around. Great den, one of the bigger ones, I think. Not the biggest. No, of course not. There's the one near the old railway line. 7 looks at 43. You have to be quite brave to get in it, jumping over the dike and through the gap. I can do it. I know you can. I do it all the time. Yes, mate, I know. Any guy-bys around at the moment, or can we talk privately? 7, the guy-bys aren't real. I think 7 is his 7-year-old self, and 43 is his adult self. So it's like his adult self is talking to his 7-year-old self. 43, no, of course not, but play real. 7, slowly putting his sword back and in his snake belt. Yeah, they're play real. 43, real in the story. Yeah, sometimes more than real life. Is that what your book's about? Well, the themes of memory, fantasy. Is your book about the guy-bys? Oh, no, not really. Oh, it's about the captain of the guy-bys. 7 smiles. What happens? He has adventures. What sort of adventures? Oh, this and that. Wouldn't want to give the game away. Well, I'm off. Leave you in peace. You said you wanted me to help. You've helped already. It helps me that we've talked, if only for a bit. Right. Will you be okay here on your own? 7 draws his sword again. Yep, dumb question. Anyhow, take it easy. Wait, are you from America? No, we all talk like this now. No, we all talk like this now. That's a bit rum, isn't it? 43 makes to leave. Will I see you again? Yeah, when you're 15. Who will you be? I'll still be 43. You stay the same? No, I change, but I'll always be 43 in the story. Stories are like that. Alone, safely, invincibly alone. I don't want attention. Attention hurts. Yes, there are 12 guy-bys, but they're not disciples, and they are certainly not my boyfriends. They're bodyguards. It's not like I don't have real friends, not quite. And my last year at Coningsby Infant School, across School Lane from Coningsby Junior School, is going quite well. At the birthday parties of friends, I wait for the moment when someone's mom clears away what's left of the angel delight and says plaintively, I wish they were all like you, Robert. Which is to say, I wish they were all as quiet as you, Robert. I'm almost indignant if I don't get that compliment at some stage. Look how much he enjoys female approval. It's interesting. He really, yeah, even from his mother's friend or from his friends' mothers, he's like seeking the validation from them. Interesting. I think because he's grown up with this like image of his mom as this like scorned woman who's really sweet and loving and protective. It's like he kind of has that desire to, and I see this sometimes with male feminists, like they'll be so influenced by their mothers and, you know, her kind of experiences and hardships in the world. And he'll want to be her like loving protector. And so he kind of develops this whole skewed worldview in order to, in his mind, defend his mother from like the ravages of patriarchy almost, you know? It's interesting. Yes, I'm doing well. Icarus Fallen, how do you feel about Robert Webb? We're reading about one of your countrymen. Okay. But then I'm also uneasy because I know that boys are not supposed to be quiet. Boys are supposed to be cheeky, like my brothers. And like Roger Baxter. Roger is my best friend. Matthew Tellis, Michael Key, and I follow Roger around during playtime. Roger is obviously the leader. Bradley Hooper, playtime. Roger is sorry. I keep doing that. Bradley Hooper used to be the leader, but his dad was in the RAF and they moved to Cyprus. So Roger, being the Avon to Bradley's Blake, don't worry if you never saw Blake 7, I just mean the spikier, more interesting second in command, finds himself suddenly in charge. Is elevated in a way he doesn't enjoy. Bloomin' I can't have a Waz in peace, says the 7-year-old Roger as the three of us follow him into the boys' loo to watch him urinate. While I pretend to have my own wee, having a real one is impossible unless completely alone, I can't help being fascinated by the way Roger pulls his whole... He's looking at another dude's wiener. He's talking about him. I don't want to say the word. I'm a little bit. I know, and I don't. Yes, it's the guy from Peep Show. Icarus Fallen says never trust a male feminist. Okay. It's not something I've been inclined to try for myself yet, just in case it's only my... He says it's his F skin. Okay? He's talking about a part of his anatomy here. That's keeping the whole thing in one piece. I have visions of the... Okay. I have visions of the round bit at the end just falling off. You can't be too careful about this kind of thing. You also have to be careful about girls. They're everywhere. At playtime, someone usually starts a game by striding around the playground chanting, "All join up for playing." And then whatever the game is, any boy who wants to play links up and chants along. So you might get 6 boys walking about the playground with their arms around each other's shoulders shouting, "All join up for playing war, no girls." Or maybe, "All join up for playing Star Wars, no girls." It was a remarkable girl who tried to join in, but she would literally be pushed away. It was, of course, unthinkable that we would join in with whatever the girls were doing, unless you count the pitiless destruction of anything they were trying to build, like a snowman. Ugh, boys are so terrible in that way. I will say that I hated when boys did stuff like that. Like you would spend all this time. I had a boy destroy my snowman once too, actually. My cousin destroying my snowman. And I like spent all day building that snowman. Okay. The snowman, have you ever built a snowman? It's not, especially as a little kid. Not only do you have to like roll these big, pieces of snow together and form them, you also have to set them on top of each other. And then you have to like craft them. Ugh. A girl screamed in your right ear. Yeah. Go ahead, T-Bone, read it. Anyway. Because how dare they? I mean, it's not called a snowman, a snow woman, is it? A 7-year-old in pursuit of the paramount objective of despising girls finds it all conveniently laid out for him. The culture, the language, it's really no effort. And if you're especially frightened and insecure, as I was at that age, or as Donald Trump is now, really? He calls Donald Trump insecure. Interesting. She must have liked you. I don't think so, honey. I no, I saw that film very early on. What is it? A Christmas Story? I saw that very early on, so I knew not to put my tongue on any metal. I made some big snowmen in my childhood. What my best one though, my cousin kicked to bits. Or maybe I feel that way just because I felt so wronged by it. But honestly, it had been up for a while. So, better he got that aggression out on the snowman than, another person. Anyway. Okay. Let me repeat this sentence. Let me just start it again. It's really okay. And if you're especially frightened and insecure, as I was at that age, or as Donald Trump is now, then membership in the in-group is best secured by showing the maximum contempt for an out-group. In this case, girls. Really? I mean, really? Is that how we're going to talk about border security and like managing immigration? Is that really how? Is it not even like really don't really, Robert? Really? Is even if he does think that kind of thing, why does he just putting it in there oh yeah, Donald Trump represents what order? I know. Why do they always put penises on things or erect? Yeah, they're crazy. Crazy. Two years earlier, my recently divorced mom had brought me in to meet my new teacher, Mrs. Walker. This was during the brief moment after Dad had been kicked out, but while we were still all living at Slieve Moyne. I would wake up most mornings in Mom's bed. The nightmares took their time to get the memo that the danger had passed, and Mom would stretch and say, well, this won't do. Maybe she just liked the company. I guess she hadn't slept alone for a long time. One afternoon, okay, so that's interesting. When he was going through his period of having night terrors like children have, it sounds like his mother kind of coddled him, she let him sleep in her bed because their father wasn't there. It's interesting. At a time when he should have been, learning how to deal with facing the terror in the night alone. One afternoon, we sing along to Rod Stewart's Sailing on the way over to the new school, but then as soon as we're in the company of Mrs. Walker, the world's friendliest primary school teacher, I, of course, turn into Muty McMute, child professor of total silence at the University of No Sounds at All. He's just very shy, explains my embarrassed mom. I hear that word a lot. Shy is my defining characteristic. Everyone tells me I'm shy, so I must be. But then what is Mom supposed to say? He's just mildly traumatized by all the domestic argy-bargy. He and particularly his brothers were subjected to a level of physical admonishment which in future, more civilized decades will quite reasonably be described as abusive. His father scares the living Christ out of him, I'm afraid. And even though I divorced that guy's sorry ass months ago and permanently kicked him into touch, The thoughtless Durhart still haunts Robert's dreams like an avenging demon from planet shit. So, Rob doesn't talk much. No, that would be unladylike, so I'm shy. Mrs. Walker finds a book with which to assess my reading. When we don't get very far, she tries another book and then another. Eventually, we try the kind of book that you give babies to test their gums on. Mrs. Walker is making a good job of not looking surprised, but I can sense that this isn't going swimmingly, and I feel embarrassed. After a couple of quiet years in the bungalow, I'll become an unusually good reader, so I won't pretend to you that this was all my fault. Mum, on the other hand, watching one book being swapped for another, is dying 1,000 deaths of shame, but the shame doesn't belong to her either. She's carrying it for someone else. I'm not sure where Dad was that day, but it was about 4 p.m, so I could hazard a guess. Yeah, I mean, you see very here, he has a lot of anger at his father and like a lot of respect and like admiration for his mother. And his way of identifying with her, I think in many parts, like he took her spirit on so much that it definitely feminized him a great deal. I know, and he was talking before about how he hates how he's a middle class C word, but he hates middle class C words. And I wonder for his daughters, too, like what's it like growing up in a family with this? And he even writes about his wife teasing him about his like past, sexual proclivities with men. Exactly. I know. Why couldn't it's interesting. He makes the Donald Trump thing, but why not use an English example? I think so too. I think yeah, a lot of them are. A lot of people are masochistic. A lot of people love their pain. Trump is insecure. Yeah, Freddie? Oh God, I know. I went to I watched like a local stand-up show a couple of years ago, and then the first guy that came on was like it was so weird. He was like, I'm a white man. I'm not supposed to talk about anything. It was like very weird and passive aggressive, but it wasn't funny. It was just kind of like interesting opening. Like it's doing something to the whites though. Like what's wrong with the whites? It's getting to us. That's why he attacks back so hard. I don't know, Fred. Does he really, or does he just run his mouth? Does he attack back hard? I don't know. I think he just says the quiet part. Is that true? That I don't think that's untrue, Frederick, but I also think that, Frederick says this. Sometimes though, that is true, but like, I find him funny. I find him entertaining and funny when he points out other people's faults. Oh, Yoda's here. He's my guy. Is he my guy? I don't know. I might vote Kennedy. I believe in voting handsome. And I've been thinking about it. I'm like, who's the most handsome here? It's Kennedy. Donald Trump is not handsome. And JD Vance sure isn't handsome. I don't know what the heck. Can I get a handsome president, please? That's true. Make America handsome again. uh, anyway. At the golf club, I find a bumblebee on the ground. It looks all wrong because the ground is not where large bees are supposed to be. He's alive. Bees are always a he, and moving his wings slowly, somehow testing them. We're on a large gravel concourse in between the kitchen and the first tee. Golfers wander back and forth. The sky is gray and it's getting dark. I think my bee might be dying. He's trying to crawl, but not really getting anywhere. Maybe he was struck by a lethally big raindrop, or maybe he just stung someone. I've heard that bees only have one sting and they die when they use it. This makes them just as scary as wasps, but much more wise and noble. Stupid stinger-happy wasps. No, my bee is in bad shape for some reason. I extend a finger wanting to stroke it, but don't dare. That's the other difference with wasps, of course. Bees look sort of furry. They remind us of mammals. I could smell the moisture in the air and know that it's about to rain again. That won't help. I build up a circle of tiny stones around the bee to offer it some protection and then wonder if I'm just trapping it. So I make a little gap in the circular wall in case the bee needs to get out. The rain starts to fall and I go inside. In the kitchen, I look through the window towards my bee in his roofless castle. But the lights are on and I can only see my reflection. Why am I Robert? Why is my name Robert Webb? And why do I have curly blonde hair? Do other people feel me the way I feel me? It seems unlikely. And why am I crying? I mean, it's only a bee. I try to dry my eyes before anyone notices. I'm not going to tell anyone about this, not even Nan or True or Mum. They would be nice about it, of course, but I know the truth about my bee. I wasn't supposed to look after it. I was supposed to stamp on it. What an interesting, perspective he has on masculinity. Really. It's interesting. That's the end of chapter 2. Wow, it took us a while to get through it, but hey, I'm enjoying this book. Okay, and so yeah, the title of chapter 2 was Boys Aren't Shy. Okay, and the next chapter is going to be called Boys Love Sport. But as I've been here for a while, and I did hopefully want to drop in on my my neighborhood function, I should probably get going. I'm desperately late to it, but I'm sure it's still going, so I should try to make an appearance. I'm glad you like it. Yeah, I'm liking this book. I'm liking hearing about his experiences. I don't know if I put this up, but I want to put this up again. You talk to someone about their faults respectively if you love them. You talk about someone's faults if you hate yourself. I agree. And if you hate them, but hating them is just hating yourself because it doesn't do any good in the world, really. Oh my goodness, Fred. Dystopian Deep Guys loves being read too. It is nice, isn't it? Yes, the title and author are in the ticker. Title and author are in the title. Come on, y'all. Modern Gentleman is not a big fan of the book. Oh, it's thought provoking though. Well, whatever. Again, my channel, my content, my decision about what we read ultimately. And you're always free to make a suggestion if you like. But yeah, I'm going to go. Have a good rest of your day. I'll see you all another time. If I'm up for it, I may go live tomorrow evening or like late afternoon. So. Nice. Yeah. Irritate your daughter. Nice. All right, y'all. Take care.